Okay, now we'll try again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the June 23rd meeting of the Wareham Sewer Commissioners. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Sandy?
Sandy Slavin here.
Malcolm White, present.
Donna Bronk, present.
Peter Dunlop, present.
And Jim Gibberti, present. Okay. And we're going to rock and roll right off the bat with citizens' participation. We've got a gentleman hiding in the back that is doing his best to doing his best to be incognito. Mr. Maddox?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just want to give you this in case you have to follow what I'm saying.
I haven't a clue as to what you're saying.
I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of copies.
Okay, that's all right.
The rest of us can't read anyway.
Well, listen, that's why we're on the committee.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
Yep.
I came here to
Sorry,
answer.
please, can you please identify
I'm
yourself
sorry.
for the record?
I'm sorry. Fred Mannix, and I guess Cranberry Commons is my address now.
Yes,
We've got a technical difficulty here, I'm not being able to pick up any sound, so.
fantastic. Okay, do we use semaphore flags instead?
Yep.
There's options. There's always options.
This is the first time you've ever...
Pardon me?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Here.
It's you, Bob.
Yep, yes.
It's you, Bob. Did you turn the button up?
Hello? Hello? Yep. Mine is working.
Hey, try again.
Okay, welcome back, everyone.
Okay,
Well, fun.
it's glad to be back. My name is Fred Mannix, and the project we're talking about tonight is at Sandwich Road. And I'm here to answer the letter. A guy sent me a letter, and I'm here to kind of answer it, and hopefully I can get some clarification. In your letter, it says there's no progress has been with the project, and
I'm sorry, Fred, can you identify this location? We have two projects on Sandwich
Oh,
Road
okay,
that
I'm
we're
sorry.
dealing with, so your street address would be helpful.
all right. I think you guys have it as,
The project.
yeah. Well, we're calling it the, I think I have the address right here, because it's 238, 242 Sandwich Road.
Thank you.
There's a couple of different addresses. I hope I got the right one. But you'll identify it. Again, we've made progress with the project. I mean, I'm not here to argue any points. I just, we got approval in 2017, and we've been working on the project since then. I had to have approval to get before the Board of Appeal, Zoning Board of Appeal. And it's been a long process to get through the Zoning Board of Appeal. We have our approval from the ZBA, and now we started the process of construction planning. My engineering has to take place. The Zoning Board of Appeal acts always on a shell. So all the interior of the building has to be figured out, and that engineering has begun. Our plan was to get started sometime in the late spring, and it didn't turn out too well for that. There's a couple of reasons for it, which I won't go into. It's just my partner passed away. There's a few things like that happened. And so it put a little bit of a time constraint on me for a couple of months. But we plan to come in around June or July and start doing some work. We have to put in a construction entrance according to my ZBA approval. We have to deal with an old building that's on the site, that has get some demolition. And we have to make some clearing in order for my civil engineer, JC Engineering, to come in and lay everything out. I've hesitated a bit because the place has been sitting vacant for a long time. It doesn't look bad. It's all green. It's not a great-looking place, but it doesn't look bad now. If I go in there, I could put the construction entrance, that's easy. I could do a few things to clear for JC Engineering, but if I start doing operations in there and tearing things apart, and then we have to stop for some reason to redo something, I really don't feel that I should jump into this thing, make a mess, and then hesitate. I've been in the business my whole life, and that's not a good thing to do. I set up a field office in Cranberry Commons. I started it in February. We're ready to do the work. This letter that I got basically tells me that I lost my allocation, and my allocation was, I guess, given in 2017. This policy that was in my letter is dated 6/4/20. So I'm confused as to how, I don't see anything in the policy that says it's retroactive. I'm not here to argue the point, I'm just making an observation. How can somebody take that away from me? And taking that away, by the way, I can't do anything. I can't get permits. I can put the construction entrance in, there's an existing driveway cut, but I do have to go to the Mass Highway Department because it's a highway. The sewer has to be all approved by them. There's an awful lot of engineering that has to take place. And, you know, this project is going to take time. I don't anticipate that no one's going to see a building there for some time. There's a lot that has to be done. But we can start the project. But I don't want to, I'm coming here to talk to the commissioners. I don't want to do something to, you know, for effect and make a mess and walk away. I mean, you guys have been putting up with the Cranberry Highway. You see what construction can do. And I don't want to, you know, I don't want to disturb the neighbors. The process took a long time with the ZBA because we did an awful lot to accommodate the neighbors and to their needs and what they wanted to do. The fire department, we did things that weren't even required to make sure that everything was safe and a good project. My problem right now is according to what I read, I can't do anything. And I wasn't here. I was told by my civil engineer that I was on the agenda last time. I looked, I wasn't on the agenda. So I don't even know where this came from, except the guy sent me a letter. And instead of calling him, I wanted to come here and talk to everybody, and I'll meet with him afterwards and bring him up to speed. Somebody has to tell me what to do. I'm lost.
Mr. Chairman, I think in his letter, we're pretty much saying that, let us know what's going on. And I think we've said that right along. And our policy pretty much says that. So I think, in all fairness, if Mr. Mannix would give us a time schedule, what's he planning on doing? Because all we're saying is that if you're going to continue, and at this point you've done nothing, tell us what's going on, because our policy is, at the end of the year, he comes in and says, hey, I know I haven't done it, but here's what I'm doing. I think at this point, we just need that clarity. If he gives us a schedule, and then the board can make a decision. It isn't like we took his gallons, we're saying that they're in jeopardy because nothing's being done. So that would be my
Is
suggestion.
it possible we can have that letter read into the record since we did not see the letter before it was issued?
Sure. Sure. I don't have it. Mr. Mannix probably has it.
I think I gave you the letter.
Okay, then
I'll
you
get
have
you
the
that.
letter. Because we sent along the letter and the policy, and so he can read them both, and then it pretty much says that.
I think the bottom line we're dealing with right now is if you can give us some kind of a timeline when you're going to actually get started and not vague mushy mush. You know, when is something going to happen there? Because right now you're tying up other building projects in town and people that want to come into town and residents that want to add a room onto their house that they can't do because there's no flow allowed. You have been granted this flow, and if you're not going to use it, there's a bunch of people lined up waiting to take it, that's all.
Well, I'm sorry.
Did you have a question, Donna?
Yeah, I did. I kind of did. Because I voted in favor of,
They can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I voted in favor of, you know, pulling the gallons too. But I think what, and it's not your fault by any means, but I don't understand, I guess we don't understand the procedures for getting all these permits. And it's, you know, what you're enlightening me, because I didn't realize that you were going through all these problems.
Okay.
But, in the future, maybe we should talk before we send a letter out.
Well, that's what the letter said.
And we-
That's what the letter said.
It
You
did,
had 30
it did.
days to get back to us.
Yeah,
You
you
get back
yeah, you
to us.
had 30 days.
All right,
yeah.
so you haven't lost anything.
Well,
Yeah,
hang on, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to, and Mr. Chairman, I guess I have to address you and the board.
Go ahead.
The voted unanimously to pull the gallons. What does that mean? I'm assuming you took away my allotment. That's what it says in the letter. I mean, I gave it to you.
it was supposed to say, we were going.
In other words,
No, it doesn't
it
say
says
that.
the June
Well, yes, it's
14th,
pulling gallons
2022.
of yes.
Mr. Mannix, the Wareham Board of Sewer Commissioners voted unanimously to pull the gallons for 238 and 240 Sandwich Road Assisted Living. The original approval was in 2017, and the gallons were reaffirmed in August 2021. However, there has been no progress with the project. Attached is a copy of the policy statement which states allocation for sewer capacity tie-ins will be granted for a period of 1 year from date of approval. If work on the project has not begun within this time period, the allocation will cease. We voted unanimously to pull the gallons. That's what it says. And there's no question to me, there was no grace period. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to call within 30 days.
That's correct.
It definitely says we are pulling the
Again.
10,140 gallons. And so if you give this back to the chair, please, I just wanted that read into record so there was no misunderstanding as to what that letter said. It said we pulled it.
Right.
And if you have questions, contact us within 30 days.
That's right, and that was based upon the policy that states if you haven't done any work within a year, then the gallons will cease.
He has a good point. The policy existed after he received his approval.
I
I mean,
I think that's
It's a tough
immaterial.
you
I
think that's
that-
immaterial?
I do.
I don't.
We've got a issue with flow, and we need to recoup whatever flow we can. If
And-
somebody's not gonna utilize flow that's been authorized, it needs to be pulled.
Then we should
And if
have,
we don't have any explanation from them as to why work hasn't progressed and why they aren't using it at this point, it will
Okay.
get pulled.
we
If
never,
they explain it to us and it's acceptable, then it is
Goes forward.
we
extended.
never asked anybody on our approval list to give us a status of their project. We never, did we give everybody on the approval list the
If they get a
update?
letter like that, they'll be in like he is, and we'll get a
But-
status.
Mr. Chairman, I called everybody on our list. Matter of fact, I
Thank you.
visited the properties of people on our list, and projects have started. No one is in the situation of these two. We did a lot of research, and we called. Mr. Mannix, we could not get a hold of. I called his attorney, I called his engineer. No one knew what was going on. So if I had Mr. Mannix's number, he would have gotten a phone call directly. The only contact I had for him is his lawyer and his engineer. J.C. Engineer said they had no clue, and the lawyer said she had no clue. So I said, okay, well, then we're going to act upon the policy.
Absolutely.
The goal was, once he gets the letter, he can come in and explain, hey, guys, I understand your policy, however, here's what's going on, and which he has done. At this point in time, the board decides what to do. It's a pretty straightforward progress. I want to say to the board, I was going to wait later, but I have 15 applications right now for extra bedrooms that are stating that the policy is unfair. They got their application approved from ZBA, a long process, well before our policy, and if I give all these folks the gallons, we are in trouble. So it's a nightmare, and, you know, it's life.
That's ZBA's problem.
I cannot live yesterday, I cannot live tomorrow. Today, we have a problem with capacity. Today, we have a moratorium. That's what's important.
That's right.
I understand. So, I just noticed that the gallons were reaffirmed last August.
Yes, what we said is
How did that, what was that process?
the process was his engineer came forward and said, hey, listen, I know we got approval in 2017, which we had totally didn't realize, only because it was given to him from, I think it was originally before, but around, let's say 2017. So the engineer called and said, hey, listen, I think we want to get the project going, but we would like to get an affirmation that it's still good, because I think the ZBA or somebody wanted it at that point in time. So we said, okay, we'll reaffirm it so you can go forward with your progress. So we did. And so we're still waiting for some type of answer. ZBA approved it. I don't know the conditions, and I'm not interested. That's on Mr. Mannix to figure the conditions. But they approved it. We've got no contact, no permit, no nothing. So that's why we say, okay, what's going on? Now that we have gallon issues and many people asking, we got a guy that needs 40 gallons, we got a guy that needs 100 gallons, we got a guy that needs 120 gallons. And we're saying no, 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 because we have no gallons. So we need to really reaffirm that projects need to go forward or they don't.
I understand.
And I can,
You got caught in the transition zone.
It seems that way.
Are you doing anything by August of 2022?
Well, I could start the construction, yes, I can do some things. I can do the construction entrance, I can start the project, but I'm not here, I've never been one to, I'm not gonna lie to get out of the room. This project is complicated. It takes a lot of engineering, not JC engineering, this is the interior engineering, the sprinkler systems, all that stuff. I'm on a state highway, and I have to get approval from the Mass Highway Department, which I don't know how long that is going to take to get the approval. If I haven't got the driveway cuts, I can't use the project. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with the driveway cuts. There's been some preliminary discussion. There are 4 driveway cuts there now. I'm going to cut them down. I think I have a good chance, a good shot at getting it. I'm not too worried about it. But what concerns me is there is a misunderstanding, Mr. Chairman, because everyone's talking as if I have some time. It says here it's gone. There's no doubt about it in my mind. It may be something, it's a typo.
Let's finish with where you're
Okay.
going right now.
All right, that's why I'm here, though. You know, that's why I didn't call. And again, not to be confrontational, but sometimes, I'm from South Boston originally, and I get a little confrontational.
I thought they sold that.
My attorney is not my attorney, she was just doing the ZBA. JC Engineering is my engineer-to-be, and if those 2 did not give you my phone number, I will take it up with them, because they certainly know how to contact me, they know how to bill me. So I'll just leave it at that.
So you know, they said they would contact you.
Yeah,
Both of them said they would contact you and have us get a hold of us.
And that's right, and JC contacted me, said, you're on the agenda. I called up, I said, I'm not on the agenda, so I didn't know what was going on. They didn't tell me my gallonage was taken away, Guy. There's a miscommunication there.
I get it, and the miscommunication there or not there, the point is what are we doing? Because even if you're not doing anything, the application with the state are long and tedious, they need to be made. And so if you're saying I haven't even made the applications yet, then when you make the application, there's a heck of a time frame to get the applications on and come down the highway. So, but to make the application is very inexpensive. So what I'm saying is the project's a go, then at least all that paperwork is filed and we're moving it along, we're doing something.
Listen, I didn't come here to have a conversation like this. I would like to have it with you.
Yeah.
And I'd like the permission from the board to at least acknowledge that, is my allocation removed now, or is it going to be removed? That's the question, and I would like to make an appointment with Guy and explain it to, I'll explain it to the board if they have the time. The process is not, what he just said is incorrect. It's not a simple application with the Mass Highway Department. It's really a long and tedious process. And I see something here that I might be able to help. Am I gonna need this gallonage tomorrow morning? Absolutely not. But if I move forward and if I don't have the gallonage, if I can't even start any process, I can't go to the board, I can't go to the building department and say, I want to file a building permit. They'll tell me, if you don't have sewer, that you're out. That's the reason this started on the 2017, is because I could not go to the ZBA without the sewer. I cannot, it's a great piece of soil, septic system would work, but not for the project.
Okay.
So we want to go to sewer.
Good.
Please help me.
Okay, what I would suggest at this particular point is you get with Guy, figure out what he needs to go forward on paperwork-wise. You've been reaffirmed, so if we go on that reaffirmation basis, that gives you an extension of a year till August of this year.
I believe it's August if
So
I go by that,
if
yeah.
that being the case, you know, can you be back in front of us at the last meeting in August?
Oh, is that the next meeting?
Well, no, but that's giving you a couple of months to
Yeah, no, I
get your
can,
act together and give us some concrete information.
okay.
And I think at that point, we can give you then a definitive answer whether or not we'd extend it any further or whether we would be pulling it.
So can I have a definitive answer now that it's not really in fact pulled, but it will be pulled if I don't come back? I mean, I just really need something to,
I
is
think
that
we can
fair?
definitely give them that answer.
I think the policy was passed with the intention that after 1 year, if you come in good faith, whoever you are, whatever entity you are, and you give us extenuating circumstances or assure us within the next year, we'd reconsider.
Okay.
But I think we should table it until the last meeting in July. But that's up to you.
I'm going to say the last meeting in August only because that's the end of the extension at this point. That gives him 2 months
Okay?
to play his games with the state and whatever has to be done.
Well, just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, 2 months with the state is just, is
Well,
not
I know,
enough.
I understand, but
Okay.
I'm just saying it's giving you 2 months so that you can
let me-
You
kick
can
some butt
file-
and do something.
To do the sewer, he's gonna file it to the state will contact us, and we'll finish I do these all
Oh,
the time.
no, I'm sorry, guy, it's
Do them
not,
all the time.
I don't want to take much more
So all
time.
I'm saying is that we'll work with
We can
that's
talk,
right.
yeah, okay,
because
because it's not the sewer extension, it's the curb cuts. If I can do it separately, he's got a good point. I'll
That's
do
why I
it
said,
separately.
get together with him,
Yep,
work
okay.
that out, get back to us, the last meeting in August.
Okay, so
Do it.
my allocation is on hold for now.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So, Fred, just so you understand where we're coming from, you understand we have a capacity issue.
I do. Can I help?
That's where
Can
the
I-
policy came from.
I don't know how.
Secondly, and my pet peeve is, we have people sitting on gallonage for years, and they're not
Right.
paying into the system, and that means every ratepayer is making up for that gallonage cost. And that's not the way to run a business.
Okay, I understand that.
You know,
And
you
if
do,
my...
you're a businessman, you
I am,
understand.
yeah, I'm not a...
Keep it hanging out there forever?
No.
And the ratepayers are subsidizing that.
But you can understand, Mr. White, that...
I understand development, trust me.
All right, okay. I just, if I can't...
As far as ZBA and planning go, they don't have a clue what we're doing over here.
Well, I understand that too, believe me. The left hand often doesn't know. But I can tell you right now that there is no possibility for me to pull a permit for... I can't get a permit for anything without the sewer.
I know.
And if the allocation is pulled, I can't tell them that I have sewer allocations. The first thing they're gonna ask me at the Mass Highway Department, if I ask for a sewer permit, do you have permission for the sewer? So the thing I'm saying, can I help? And I don't mean to talk myself out of something here, but, you know, if I'm not gonna do the project that quick, I mean, what are the plans for sewer allocation? The town is gonna die if we don't have any sewer allocation here.
That is totally
We're working on
understood.
Yeah, okay.
We understand that,
Yeah.
and that's
Wanna
one of
get
the
into all
problems we're
that.
fighting with right now. We're
But
trying
I
to deal
could,
with.
you know, something that I could, my allocation, can I pace it or something? If I have a problem at the state, if they can't give me a permit for 6 months because I have to go back and forth, look what it took me at the
Let us,
ZBA.
all I'm saying is, go through your process, get the
Right.
process going, let us know where you
Right.
stand, and then we'll go from there.
I think the key, Mr. Chairman, is communication.
Yeah, that's all.
So
If we
what's
don't-
going
if we
on?
don't
If
know
we
what's-
don't communicate, then we'll then make
Yeah,
up.
I
if we
gotta
don't
give
know
her
what's
my
go-
phone
If we
number.
don't know what's
That's the
going
first
on
thing
with
I'll do.
you,
Yeah.
and the project stalls, then we're yanking the gallonage, it's that
Okay.
simple.
Despite the site issues with the curb cuts and all that stuff, right, do you have a design for the buildings?
We have a...
Do you have a set of drawings you could apply for a
Oh, yeah.
permit with?
No, because the set of drawings to apply for a construction permit need all the engineering and the calculations and everything for the inside. I don't have that, and that takes especially now, you'd be surprised, I don't know what the economy's doing.
No, I'm
but,
not surprised.
You know, I can't get my hands on people to do anything because everybody's tied up. But that's not your fault or mine, it's just the fault of what's going on. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but a year from now, there'll be a lot of people trying to stay busy, the way things are looking. They don't look too good. And that's no good for the project either. So, but listen, I'll give Guy my phone number. I'll wait for the end of the meeting. I'm not going anywhere. I'll just talk to you at the end, and we can So does that make sense? I just,
That's, you know, that's,
10,140 gallons.
Well, you can call me and we can talk, whatever.
10,100.
oh, wait, this doesn't seem like it's gonna take long,
No,
right?
it's gonna be a long one.
Is it?
Yeah, it's at least 20 minutes, no, it'll be longer. You got a presentation.
101.
I gotta go get a
Whatever
lobster
works for
roll.
you. Whatever
Yeah, I'll wait for you. I drove all the way down.
Assisted living project.
I can give you my cell number, and you can call me anytime.
Okay.
Okay,
It's not,
thanks for coming.
okay,
no, thank you
we're
for,
all set?
thank you for hearing me, and.
Thank you.
I'll wait for him any.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody.
All right, moving slowly along. We have got minutes for approval, 13th of April, 28th of April, 12th of May, and the 26th of May. 13th of April,
No minutes were available for 4/13/22. They were to be copied, but they were not available this morning. So that is tabled.
okay, that's, gotcha.
I have reviewed the minutes of April 28th, 2022, and find them to be complete and accurate, and make a motion we accept them as presented.
Do I have a-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
500. For May 12th and May 26th, we can do it as one. Both of those meetings were canceled.
Chair, here's a question. I cannot find where there was any quorum posted on the website regarding these two dates. So as far as anybody looking at them with no quorum, with no agenda posted, I don't think we need these two sets of minutes.
Oh, okay.
The minutes just say there was no meeting because there was no quorum. If there had been an agenda
There
online,
was no meeting because there was no agenda posted in time.
that's right, because it
That was
was,
the reason.
so to me, I
Okay.
think we do nothing with these two because there's no agenda to offset them with.
Okay,
I agree.
all right.
That's the way it is accurate.
Okay, 72 Minot Ave, the pump station status, has that been turned over, or are we still
Yeah, we're
kind
done.
of semi-servicing it with,
We're doing nothing.
we're doing nothing?
So let me be clear. We sent a letter out to Mr. Giancola.
Yeah,
Got a copy of it. So what we pretty much said is that we're asking him to continue to work on getting the pump stations on his side. And that he's to keep us informed as he's making progress to where he is. We're looking for quarterly, whatever, to say, hey, listen, I'm still working on it, or I'm not working on it. He's agreed if we have any issues at that pump station, that he will help out. And that he would do his part, and if it's economics, he would take care of it. If he has to hire somebody, he would. So he's agreed to do his part, and we told him that we would do our part, but we are encouraging him and insisting that he gets them over on his side, and he's working on that. So that's where we are. There's no other issues.
okay. So,
I thought we decided that we had nothing to do with
I
that.
don't want, yeah, we did, but it changed.
yeah,
It doesn't count anymore?
no, it's illegal tonight. So they-
Okay.
It was decided for us that we own it, so we own it.
Okay, that was it. Okay, that takes care of that one.
Yep.
Where are we with the wastewater management
It's
plan?
at the attorney. So we had some, it's really, it's a good question. So there was some language changed in the indemnification that was changed with our attorney a long time ago. The same language was submitted and it was denied. We sent it back to him and say, no, this is what you approved and it's the same language. We're waiting to hear. That's where we are with the comprehensive wastewater management plan.
So, Guy, can you say that again? I
No.
quite didn't
listen.
understand where it stands.
Listen, you're asking me to remember, I can't remember breakfast, but anyways.
no.
Where we
So-
are with it is, we have, I'll do this.
We submitted it.
It's not the memory, it's the
So the
retrieval.
engineer submitted to us the proposal,
To you.
to me, to us, the sewer department.
Well, I don't remember seeing it, but to you.
Yeah, to you, to me, to the sewer department.
Yep.
We submit always to our attorney for review.
Okay,
He reviewed it and said, no, I don't like the language.
okay.
So, what makes it interesting is the very same language that he approved during many months of deliberation. He said, okay, I'll accept the language. We give him the same language, and he doesn't like it. So we're saying, okay, but wait a minute, this is the exact same language that you approved in the present past contracts. What's the difference now? And so we're waiting to hear back from
Okay,
him.
so we have a plan, it's being reviewed by the attorney, he has some questions on some words, and that's where it stands, waiting
correct.
for.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Okay. Grant programs.
Yeah, I'm looking for somebody to grant me grace. That's what I'm really looking for.
Those first come.
But we do have a couple grants that we've applied for, and we will continue to apply for all grants. We applied for a grant to evaluate a manholes in Swiss Beach because of the rise in sea level. A lot of our manholes that were originally not in the water zone and in danger of being, if you will, flooded, we're reevaluating, and we'll have to add some, if you will, watertight covers. So we've applied for that grant, and we're waiting for the disposition of that. We've also applied for a grant, and we had a meeting that Commissioner Slade was at for our pump stations, and we're waiting for the disposition of that. They'll come back to us, and they'll ask some questions, and we'll do the paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. Those are two grants that are active, and that's all we have active at this moment. But there's other grants that we look at, and as they come up, we'll continue to apply for them, especially through the process of the SRF funding and all the things we got to do. We'll continue to apply for grants. But this is a good time for me to bring up. We had said at a meeting many moons ago, and I think the point was brought up by Commissioner Brock, that what we do standardly is if an engineering firm brings to us a grant, then because of their work to apply for it, to follow it up, and to obtain it, we give them the engineering. And we discuss it with many, and because she questions, and we said, no, that's it. Because it would be unfair for me to say that engineering group Z went out and spent months applying for it, answering all the questions, putting the paperwork together, and we get the grant and say, okay, we're going to give it to engineer B, who did nothing. And so that's been our policy. We've done it right along, and it seems to be fair. And why I'm mentioning it is that we have a grant that an engineering firm worked on very hard and diligently for us, and they moved it forward. I get a call from the granting agency and said, if I don't have a policy, then that doesn't mean that engineer gets it. I may have to go out for a bid, which troubled me because I said, wait a minute, that engineering firm spent a lot of time. So I said, I have a policy, and I can't find it in our conversation. So tonight, I'd like to reaffirm that if, through the board, that if an engineering firm, any firm, brings to us a grant that's going to save the town money and work on behalf and the benefit of the town, that engineering firm, we're going to award them the engineering contract. And I want that to be reaffirmed, because I don't want to get back into the rabbit hole where people work hard for us, and we say, hey, thanks for your effort, see you later. I don't want to go there. So I'd like to bring that up only because it's come to my attention, and we've had this particular engineering firm that worked very hard and did it for a couple of years, and they're in jeopardy of not having it. So that's why I want to bring it up.
Okay, side question before we do anything with that. Am I correct in assuming that if we continue to follow this policy, that means we can get the project, whatever it is, done sooner than we would be able to otherwise?
Yes, because once an engineering firm does all this work, and I give it to the next engineering firm, they have to review everything, start again, so it's going to cost us money and time and delay in the
But then
project.
you'd have to go out on an RFP, wouldn't you?
Well, they're saying, so because engineering is exempt from procurement, it doesn't have to go out to RFP, but we can do what we call quoting. We can go to 3 engineering firms and say, hey, give me your price, give me your price, give me your price. Because engineering is exempt from procurement. They just are, along with bankers of the scoop.
So it's my understanding you can put out, here, I want this engineering project done, and you put it out for a quote to do the engineering. But you're right, the issuing of an RFP is not required for engineering,
Okay,
because
if
it
it's
is
not
an
required, then
exempt.
that eliminates that discussion.
So
That's
what
all.
you do is you ask for a quote to
Fine.
do the engineering plan, and that's where you've done your due diligence of arranging at that.
Right.
I mean, so to me, I don't think we need a policy, I think
Well, no,
it's just
I want to be clear. What I'm saying is that if an engineering firm finds a grant, they do, oh, there's a grant, and they ask, and they apply on our
Oh, for the
behalf.
grant component.
That's right, that's all I'm
Oh,
talking
that's-
about.
We're not talking about a project, we're
No,
talking
we're
about a
talking about
grant.
the grant
Okay,
component
so
that spends all the energy
I
to.
make,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I make a motion that we,
So the engineering company wants to do a project. They find a grant available, they do all the work, get the grant. You think we should therefore give them the contract?
The grant, if the grant benefits, yes.
Just yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's what I said originally, yes, yes.
Sandy, go ahead with your motion.
I believe, I make a motion that we adopt a policy that, if an engineering company that has a contract with us obtains a grant, that they are awarded the implementation of that grant's project? Do you, no, that's not,
They don't have a contract with us.
they do have a contract with us because they have a contract with us doing something that is not the grant. Right?
Well, no, they are, but I think to clarify, I don't care, so here's the thing, there's a million grants out there coming forward. Let's say that Sandy Slavin's engineering firm says, hey, calls Wareham, says, listen, there's a fantastic grant that'll work into your town perfectly. It's gonna meet your needs,
Okay.
save you tons of money.
Got it. So it has nothing to do with what they may be doing for us already. So I withdraw that motion, I will try again. If any engineering company presents the Wareham Sewer Department, Wareham Pollution Control Facility, a grant, that our policy is that they are given the approval to implement that grant.
Engineering, yes, absolutely.
Engineering of that grant or that grant's project, I mean, help me with the words here, folks.
Maybe if an engineering firm recommends a grant opportunity to the town and completes the grant application, that same firm shall be entitled to the engineering services that accompany that
So
application.
moved.
Second?
Second.
Are you gonna plagiarize that and take that as your own?
There is no way I'm going to remember that, by the way, so I hope somebody wrote it down.
That's the thing. We have it on.
Come on, Sandy, right?
Luckily, it's on tape. Yeah, exactly, I hope. Okay. That motion, and it was seconded, do I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Good.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the Good Homes Department. You're on.
GHD,
Funding.
that's our funding proposal.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, we have GHD here, and we have Bader Engineering here to talk about proposals we have to move forward for the SRF funding. I think
Before we
it's,
start, may I have the names for the record?
the names, GHD, oh, okay. yeah,
Who is
they can
representing
do
us?
that. Yeah, they-
Yes.
They can do that, I just,
Russ Claycamp, engineer with GHD. Sarah Greenberg, engineer with GHD. And Mr. Bob Drake with the Beta Group is also here to answer any questions regarding the Swifts Beach project that
you
come
sit
up.
up here, Bob.
Thank you.
So good evening, Russ Claycamp with GHD. We're here to talk about some proposed solutions for the capacity issue at the treatment facility. We have a few priority projects that we've identified and would like to discuss with the board applying for another state revolving fund application. And we're prepared to talk about, proposed impacts to the rates, and then also funding sources. There are have been some incentives passed along with the infrastructure bill that have potential to help out with the funding for these projects even more. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Sarah Greenberg's been the project manager on the improvements project at the treatment facility. She's been working closely with Guy and put the project together, so I will turn it over to Sarah.
All right, thank you, Russ. Yeah. Oh, that's loud. Wonderful. Thank you all. So we'll try to keep it as short as possible. So first off, let's go through a quick agenda. We are going to talk about some priority projects, as Russ mentioned, and they're based on 2 evaluations that were had. The evaluation of the WPCF, as well as infiltration inflow evaluation, and we have Bob here, who can answer any questions specific to the Swift Beach project. So the WPCF evaluation did 2 things. It looked at capacity and condition at the treatment facility, what equipment, what processes are at their useful life, are they treating the processes, and then also capacity. Where are we at on capacity? And of course, you all know that this is critical because when you hit 80% of your permitted flows, that this triggers a requirement to submit to the regulatory authorities a plan for how future flows will be addressed. And so where we're at now is that 80% of the permitted flow is 1.56 MGD, and 80% is 1.25 MGD. And so with the committed flows that have already been established, of about 246,000 gallons per day, or 0.25 MGD, plus the last year's average flow, you can see that that totals 1.28 MGD. And you can see that that is above the 80% threshold, and that's just important because while the committed flows aren't all being received right now, they are committed, and we are at that threshold. And of course, that doesn't take into account 80 Makepeace and the Business Development Overlay District. So capacity, of course, as you all have been just talking about, is important. And so the other piece that the evaluation went into is looking at condition as well, of what are the pieces at the facility that need upgrading or rehabilitation to continue to function. And this evaluation went through all of the processes at the facility and then came out with some recommended action items. And the top 2 priority projects was rehabilitation of the preliminary treatment, or the headworks, and the secondary clarifiers. And you can see in the photos to the left, this is showing some headworks equipment. It's, achieving its useful life. The condition is at such, it's a very heavily used, of course, part of the facility, and it's critical to protect all the downstream processes. And so it's recommended that this is upgraded. And so this is a condition upgrade. Then you also have the secondary clarifiers further down in the treatment process, and they are too shallow, and so they are not they are prone to failure. And you can see that in addition to their capacity not being sufficient, condition-wise, the equipment in the clarifier, the mechanisms are reaching their end of life, so to speak. And you can see on the right-hand side, unfortunately, this is after one has broken, and it's not removing some of the scum that it would ordinarily do to continue the process. So these are the 2 high-priority projects that were recommended in the evaluation for upgrade. And then, secondly, the inflow and infiltration project, Swift Speech, as Russ mentioned. Beta did an I&I evaluation, and so we've talked about how Swift Speech low-pressure sewer project to convert the gravity sewer in that area to low-pressure sewer in order to reduce the I&I.
And the one thing I'll just add with this, again, capacity is the biggest concern. Once this, we talked about the past I&I, you have to do a large piece of it to get the return for it. So by approaching Swift Speech at the magnitude you are, is the correct way to do it, and you will get the maximum return for that, and that will grant some, I hate to say the word instant capacity, but once you get all the I&I solved in that area, that's expected to open up, I believe, between, 100 and 200,000 gallons per day, roughly, in that ballpark. So would go a long way if we had those additional gallons.
Right.
That's
so,
if,
yeah.
excuse me, Russ, that's if we did the entire Swift Speech.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned 2 projects here, WPCF improvement projects that are some condition upgrades as well as capacity upgrades. Upgrading the clarifier is not only going to be a condition upgrade, but can be expanded to allow for increased capacity as well. And so with these two projects, we feel these are critical for these are this year project criticality, and that can help with both the condition and capacity. And I'm sure we're all sitting here wondering, what are the cost of these things? And so we want to talk about the cost of these projects, as well as how the mechanisms for funding and what proposals we have for moving forward with that. So here are some order magnitude costs. So the Swift Speech, Beta, of course, Bob, if you want to jump in, feel free to jump in at any point, but the construction, there's a portion under construction now, but the order of magnitude cost, as Rush mentioned, to do the entirety of Swift Speech is in the realm of 20 million, and the WPCF upgrades, the upgrades I mentioned to the headworks area, as well as addressing the secondary treatment and the clarifiers, is in the order of 40 million. So you're looking at, so the critical 2022 project costs that you're seeing are 60 million. And so this is not an insignificant cost at all. But why are we presenting this now? We feel this is a really unique opportunity this year to take advantage of some really important funding opportunities. So the state revolving fund is a low-interest loan fund. Of course, it's been around, but we have these other layers that have come up now to allow for further help with the costs. So also, Wareham is a Tier 3 community, and what does that mean? That means that any community in Massachusetts that's listed as Tier 3 receives 9.9 principal forgiveness on this loan.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
It receives what?
9.9% principal forgiveness on your principal of your loan.
Okay.
Yep. And then on top of it, too, the icing on the cake, if you will, for why it's so unique right now, this year, is that the infrastructure bill that Russ mentioned is going to supply additional funding for principal forgiveness. The state has not yet released the quantities of that, but that is on top of the 9.9% and on top of taking advantage of a 0 to 2% low-interest loan for this project.
And just something to add with that, obviously 60 million is a tremendous number. We don't know what this additional principal forgiveness is, but on top of the 9.9%, if there is an opportunity to get upwards of it, another 10, 15, 20, maybe more percentage, we will never see this opportunity again to invest this much money on needed infrastructure projects. I know this comes at a difficult time with inflation on the rise and all these prices, but with the large infrastructure projects, if you know they are a necessity, it is in your favor to act as quickly as possible, because they only get more expensive. Inflation has been record highs. The crystal ball is unclear at this point where it's going. So we do have a unique opportunity now, and I believe this timeline is for 5 years for this additional grant forgiveness, or the additional principal forgiveness. We don't have all the details yet, but we want to be in a position to take advantage of this when it does come to fruition.
What do we need to do to get in position?
Guy, did you have something?
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, I want to point out that Clarifier 3 is failed. We're having it well just to keep in operation, and those two clarifiers are vintage 1972. Both drums are shot, so no matter what we do, we're going to replace those clarifiers. Whether we go through this program or go on the open market, we will replace them.
Right.
So I want to make sure that we understand that.
And we'll answer your question, Mr. Chairman, very soon with the presentation.
And so, of course, as we've talked about also, there's always grant opportunities to pursue as well. But the meat of what we want to take advantage of is this unique infrastructure bill that has this additional principal forgiveness attached to it. So, let's talk about what the impact would be to our EDUs and to ratepayers, right? How do we conceptualize talking about this 60 million, and what does that mean for payments, right? So, we put together an example of, say we get a $60 million loan at that 2% interest rate using a simple interest rate formula. You have your principal, say it's a 20-year loan, so $3 million is your first year, 2% interest rate, 1.2 million, so that's 4.2 million. And say we divided it by approximately 9,000, approximate number of EDUs, that's looking at a cost for this loan, so to speak, of $467 per EDU for a year. So if you do the same example at a 0% interest, you can see, of course, the principal doesn't change, but in year one, dividing it by the amount of EDUs, it's getting you $333 per EDU for the year, for that first year.
And again, the two big items for the 0% interest. Peter?
That's an increase of 330.
That is correct.
Correct. These numbers are on top of
correct.
existing rates.
And these are 20-year, there are 30 years available, which are loan, but we decided to use the 20-year as an example. But there's a 30-year, which adds 10 more years, and there'd be a different divisible number, but yes.
And while 0% loans are very attractive, there's a few main criteria. One is a flow-neutral bylaw has to be in place. So while we want to talk and look at that example, until that bylaw gets passed, it's probably, we shouldn't be considering 2%. The other item is that for 0%, the project has to be a nutrient removal project. That's 2 of the 5 criteria. And then also, if you're under any form of a consent order, you're ineligible for the 0%. So while 0% is great, there are steps the town will need to take in order to achieve that. But when you're talking projects on the magnitude of $60 million plus, the difference between 0 and 2% is roughly $12 million. It's significant.
Absolutely, and so,
Buy a lot of cannolis.
so if you were to do, so for example, if you were to do that same example, I mean, right now on the open market, rates are, 5% approximately. That if you do that same calculation, that first year, you're looking at $667. So you can see how taking advantage, this is just to showcase taking advantage of a low-interest loan, 0 to 2%, is, while it's still a large number, it's going to be almost, it could be as little as half as expensive or half the cost of the 5% open market. So this is just a nice little way to sort of frame what some of the real costs could be, or one mechanism for how that cost for the loan could be.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to point out, we worked with John Foster for these numbers, so we just didn't pull them out of the air. We worked with our town financial advisor, director, to get these numbers.
And we could say, we see some notes being taken, we're happy to email out or give copies of the presentation.
Okay,
This
good.
is just for the 60 million project for 22.
Correct.
Not to say what happens in 23, 24, 25.
Phosphorus
So
upgrades, Narrows
incrementally,
Pump
we could
Station.
see this incremental increase in EDUs year on year, adding on top of, on top of, on top of.
That is absolutely, yeah.
Understanding of just, this is just looking at the 60 million.
That is true, but I do want to point out that starting in 2023, we have debt that drops off. And so it will incorporate that dropped-off debt. We have projects that are coming to fruition, and that debt money will be available. So all that's factored into these long-term decision-making process.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a simple way of showing how that 60 million could be divided.
Right.
Of course, this doesn't take into account, that loan. What about the principal forgiveness? So that would be a benefit to these values, right? If there's principal forgiveness, then these values can come down. So again, just focusing on taking advantage, if possible, of this 0 to 2% low-interest loan. And of course, so there is also, if we do nothing, unfortunately, the potential costs of no action are still costs, unfortunately. There's the potential for consent orders, and those can come with annual fines that can add up to be more than the project. Russ mentioned loss.
Yep, you lose the eligibility for the 0% funding.
And the kicker is, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and those projects still need to be completed. Now, this is if a consent order is issued, and how is a consent order issued? If you have violations to your permit. So where we are now, again, if we have a tremendously wet season, high water tables, excessive I&I, we're going to be in the same position we were back in 2018. But now we have more connections, more flow, more sanitary flow coming in. So that and I know it's always something that, well, what if we just do nothing? The cost can be significant. We worked with other communities on this, and we were tempted to show some numbers tonight, but we wouldn't recommend the do-nothing alternative for this particular set of circumstances.
And so to get to your, Mr. Chairman, to your question of, what comes next. So this is a proposed schedule for pursuing the SRF loan for these projects. And so the first step in that is to submit a project evaluation form, which is to pretty much start the application process for the funding, and that's a mid-August deadline. But you'll see in yellow, the two town action required items are the fall town meeting to approve design funds, and then that has to precede in order for the spring town meeting to be able to approve the, do construction appropriation for those projects.
It would be a very similar process to what we did for the 9.9 million for the SRF funding. It's just a larger number, so it would go through the town meeting votes and things like that. But just one, the gentleman that was up here before mentioned, what can we do to help as a resident? These are big issues. Ultimately, they have to go up in front of town meeting. The best thing a resident can do is help explain what the problem is and vote in favor of these projects. This will open up the capacity, and we need to do it. We know it costs money. But we're at a very difficult crossroads here where things are going to come to a grinding halt, and there'll be more circumstances of situations of projects that were put in. It's just going to keep going and going. So it's a lot to digest. Totally get it, understand. But we do have a ticking clock on this. August 8th is the first submission. So happy to discuss, questions, concerns. Do we have, looks like we have one more slide that Sarah will.
Of the 40 million, that does not do anything to improve our capacity.
No, I was going to say that.
I'm
Remember,
just-
that's right.
just-
You're right.
That's it. So the 20 million is to redo all Swiss speech, which helps with I&I with an unknown amount of savings of input. But the 40 million is, we must do it in order to keep the plant functionally. But our October town meeting, I really do believe we have to work as soon as possible to get that article completed, submitted, and discussed to make it the fourth Monday in October.
Correct.
We could very well be looking at the articles are due in September.
And we'll absolutely, we have records of the past wording for articles. Sarah, I can
Yeah.
get, and maybe
Gonna say, they can help draft it.
Yes,
at an upcoming, maybe even the next meeting, we could present some draft language and we can discuss.
because
some
I'd like to
finalized.
get it to the selectmen as soon as we
now's the time
possibly
to
can.
start.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, and absolutely, the first 20 million Swiss speech, that will get you 100, 200,000 gallons to relieve the connections. However, the remaining at the plant, if we bring the condition of the equipment, to continue to meet our permit requirements is aging, it's old,
Yeah,
it's
just
falling
old-
apart in front of
it's
us.
Old stuff.
We cannot afford to mess up on our outflow.
No.
Cannot.
Cannot. And to your point, with the new CMR, I think it's 314, 2.16, says that now the reporting through the state, if I violate my permit to the river, goes on a tremendous list that is collected. It goes to everybody and the state and the EPA, and it triggers a whole lot of, for lack of a better word, reprimand. It's out there now. So the new law it actually goes into effect July 16th. We've submitted our plan, and it's costly, but we're there. So we have to be more than cautious. So yes, to your point, absolutely, the outfall becomes more critical than critical. Yes.
And so we do have a draft memorandum that we will distribute. We wanted to present this first, but it has more details about the project. You only saw, one bullet of upgrade preliminary treatment. What does that entail type thing? So we'll get that around to others.
Does Guy have that, or have we sent that out yet?
Guy has that, I believe, but
Okay.
yeah, let's confirm and make sure we get an updated version. But let's focus on the unique opportunities. I would just like to end on this slide where we can just remind ourselves of the positive, too, of the infrastructure bill has this additional principal forgiveness, and it is a unique opportunity given what we're facing. And that is all we have for you, though. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Chairman, one of the things that we had discussed is we're not going to get any capacity anytime soon. It just isn't going to happen. And we have a capacity issue. And that's why it's critical that we review what we have out there, because we are not going to see any capacity anytime soon. We're stopped. And so all this stuff becomes critical for the future.
So how much
Okay.
money can we get from the federal government with all these government programs for infrastructure?
We're looking at them. And the
We're
governor's
looking at
got
'em.
programs, we're going to try and look at all of
We
them.
gotta go after
Everything.
everything we
Everything.
can from the federal government
Everything.
for their,
Absolutely.
there are letters for it, and I can never remember the letters for that particular. What are the letters?
Alphabet soup.
But the SRF.
For the federal, who?
Oh, the
is one
SRF
of them.
funding?
Is it the SRF or is there another one?
There's a couple of them, I don't know the acronyms.
Clean Water Trust, SR, I mean, there's a
There's
bunch
a
of
lot of
different,
them.
but understood that
There's
if there's
tons.
incentives being provided, town of Wareham should be going after and trying to collect every
And who's the
incentive.
town of Wareham?
Down where?
No, who?
Well, the sewer department specific.
The sewer department, as opposed to the town administrator or anybody else. It's up to,
Correct, driven by the sewer
It's-
department.
That's right, but it's a group because we, the board decides what to do, but it still has to go through that layer of selectmen and town administrators. So they need to be involved actively also at some
The-
point.
the
Once
ta-
we decide, then we can bring it forward.
The town administrator does sign off on the loan, like the SRF loan application will need town administrators and
okay.
things like that.
maybe it's worthwhile to have this being presented to the selectmen as soon as
we-
possible.
We plan on that.
I-
We plan on that.
Because they're only meeting every other week during the summer, so they won't go back until meetings until September.
And July 12th, I think, is the first live, and so that, it'll be after that date to get on the live
Well, it's,
program.
if we gotta get on their agenda, if we're going every 2 weeks, we gotta get on ASAP. If we're gonna have this addressed and understood before we submit a article for fall town meeting.
So I suggest we probably try to get on the July 12th.
I would get to the chair of the selectmen as soon as possible to get time on the agenda.
Okay.
We'll reach out tomorrow to the selectman's office and schedule time for the soonest available meeting.
But
Well,
wouldn't our
sorry,
chairman can talk
Monday.
to their chairman and get us
Oh,
on the
the off
agenda?
tomorrow?
Mr. Chairman?
Town
can-
hall is, sorry, town hall is closed on Fridays.
Okay.
I'll call her tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, will take care of the.
I'll call Judy tomorrow.
Ouch.
Don't think of it as ouch. I've told a hundred, you know, it's not good news, it's not bad news. It's the reality of the situation, and we have to act together to minimize costs to the ratepayers. It's gonna be a hard sell to say that all this work needs to be done, and we're not gonna raise rates. But we need to minimize. We need to really look out for the best interest of the ratepayers.
So their rates are $743 that hits them in August. It could be another $333 on top of that, so it could be over $1,000 a year
Correct.
if we get the one with zero interest rate. as
$100
opposed
a
to-
month.
Mr. Chairman,
$100 a month.
and Mr. Chairman, I know this doesn't help anybody, but when we did our last SRF funding, the federal government and the state government was appalled, I wouldn't use the word appalled, but don't know how we're doing what we're doing with the rates we have presently. So that, I mean, it means nothing to nobody, but I want to say,
We got-
we're moving forward trying to get something done.
Wait a
So-
minute, it means a lot to a
No,
lot
no,
of
what I meant
people.
is, what I meant is that to say that we're low, people don't want to hear it, doesn't mean nothing, that's all I'm saying. To say, we are on the low end of rates today, that's all I'm
Well,
saying.
we're in the low end of the income today, too. Look at the senior population we have here.
And we're in tier 3, which means we're not a wealthy
I
community.
get it, and every kid in the town of Wareham School Department gets free lunch, I get all that. I get it all.
Okay.
But the question becomes, do we do nothing? Or what do we do? Because we have a
it comes
system
down-
that's deteriorating, we have pipes that are breaking.
All of that's fine, well and good,
So
but
how
you
do-
can't get blood out of a turnip.
I get
And
that.
people don't have this kind of money. That's the end of it.
I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if it is or isn't, I guess.
Let the town kick in some.
Well, there's,
The moratorium is killing the town because they can't bring in industry or anything else. Let the town kick in.
I think
We
that- I
can't put
think-
it on the ratepayers.
I think this discussion comes up after we have the presentation to the selectmen.
Well,
That's
We need to
another
get them
thing.
on board so that they're aware. You got a whole new crop of people there that need to understand that just because they can flush the toilet doesn't mean everything's all fine and well.
And we had discussed the town as a whole kicking in. We've discussed it, so it's gonna be brought forward. At this point, we don't have that option, but it's an option we need to pursue. Absolutely, but right now, we don't have it. So we're presenting numbers with the reality of today. We're hoping tomorrow that everybody kicks in because they all benefit. And
We
the
all
town,
benefit,
You know, look at the tourism, the beaches, that's all the benefit of the sewer users. And
Because-
every- so that's-
All of that's fine, well and good, but people don't have this kind of money, guys.
I get it.
I mean, no argument.
Well,
I cannot fault any of your points, but you can't get it.
So the question has to be asked, is this something that we can put on every taxpayer in town,
That's
sewer
exactly, but-
users
but-
or not? Because
That's what
didn't
I'm
we
saying.
do that when we
Kind of
up?
what we're gonna have a discussion.
Sorry,
Before any of this discussion takes place, we need to present what they've just presented to us to
Have
the
to increase the
selectmen.
tax base.
All right.
Them on that page, and then move forward with this other discussion. Other than that, it's a waste of time, you're just going in a circle.
So when you mention in a year or two, you're gonna have some debt be paid
Yeah,
off.
that'll help.
Do we know what that would equate to, like in
Sure,
this
I've got the
equipment?
chart,
So,
and we'll look at that.
let's look at what the debt falls down at,
Well,
like,
I mean, that needs to be focused in, as, at least for discussion purposes, so we understand what's coming off, what we're paying at the present time, and how that's gonna transfer over.
just keep in
Because it's
mind, we
gonna-
just approved $6 million. in
Understand
debt.
all that, that's what I'm saying, we've got to understand what is coming off and how that transfers over with what we've already got coming up. And then this will be another whole new package by itself,
Listen,
so.
I can't keep track of all the contracts. Are you guys under contract on the funding issue? That's separate from the comprehensive waste management plan?
So, correct, so GHD is working to, that was the contract that's going through legal review right now. Beta's handling all of Swift's Beach, and for
Right.
projects related to the treatment facility, would be looking to submit a proposal for the engineering services.
Okay. It's got to keep moving.
We
that's
do,
all.
yep. And, GHD and Beta, we talk, we keep behind the scenes, we have a very good working relationship and respect each other's boundaries, and both trying to do what's in the best interest of the town.
Yeah, I understand, yep. Yeah, we met the other day on Swift's Beach, just briefly, just a couple of us, yeah, so. I'm all over that for immediate relief, so.
It's a good project.
Okay,
I'll be planning the next one.
anything else on this particular issue at the moment? Now, you said,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
you're gonna send us copies of this presentation, so we'll have it. Thank you.
Just to make sure, Sarah, a few action
Yeah,
items,
please.
circulate a memorandum
Yeah.
with Guy for the sewer commission.
The lights on.
Reach out Monday to Selectman's office. We'll want to follow up with Guy. Guy, we'll look into what the debt, that payment that's coming back, and we'll look into finances. And then, also, we're gonna start putting together, is it too soon that the draft wording for a warrant article, are we
No,
jumping?
no, we should not too soon.
No? Okay, so
No.
we'll start putting some language together.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be one article, so Bob will share that with you when we have the language together. Sure.
And Sarah, could you also send me a copy of the memo that you sent to Guy? And
By the way, those numbers were something I was looking for. Even if it's painful.
pardon me?
The numbers?
Oh,
Sheets with the numbers, that's what I'm interested in.
oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, the,
There's much more where all those numbers come from, happy to provide, backup, all that sort of stuff.
And this whole process is painful.
Just
for
trying to
us
steer this
because
thing budget-wise, that's what that's the
it's
stuff I want to know.
Big numbers.
That's what I'm trying to get
So
to.
we don't leave a total mess when we're out of here.
We received the total mess coming in.
It was
Trying to
crazy.
straighten this thing out.
When the clarifier no longer pulls out scum and no longer pulls out sludge, it's critical, and we're there. And so, yeah, I get it. And capacity, we were told in 2002 that in 2022 we'd have no capacity. We were told.
We've had this discussion
We'll
before.
get down
so.
there with pool skimmers.
Yeah, I know, we're doing some of that now. And the hard part is that the odors are tremendous because it's loaded with scum. I can't get rid of the scum.
Yeah.
Can't get rid of it. It's there. And it's problematic in all areas, so that's, I don't know.
Okay, when I,
Chair, make sure this gets on capital planning,
He's
the
in charge of
capital
that.
project needs to be included in capital planning.
when we have the capital project,
Yes,
right
just-
now,
I'm
we're
not-
still
I
in
just-
discussion. But yes,
Okay.
it will go on and it should go forward at that point, because, you can throw it on there right now, but it's just gonna be a number in the blue until we have a little bit more information and get a few more people on board.
I thought we had approved
Yeah.
clarifiers 3 years ago, but that's
We
beside the
approved
point.
the new drums,
Yeah, the drums, that's all,
that's all we approved.
that's all, right.
Permission to be excused, Mr. Chairman?
No, I want you to suffer. I want you to suffer like the rest of us.
Now, how,
I've been suffering for a long time, Mr. Chairman, trust me.
Am I don't see a box.
Oh, listen, listen.
Okay, all right.
We went through that.
Okay.
We went through that.
Okay.
They
Yes,
gave
you're
him-
excused.
They gave him a, yeah,
All he does is come in here and ask for money now.
that's right, that's right. He
Thank you
said
very
times have
much.
changed, he said. That's
Thank
what-
you for your
that's what he said.
evening.
Thank you, Russ.
See you soon,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.
Both you guys, thank you too, Bob. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Sarah. She did all the talking.
Oh, she's a woman, man. She's the one.
Yeah.
You know, you can send
They
her,
want her to bring the bad news because she doesn't have to come back.
you can send her the next time you can stay home. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now you take those 130 homes that they're doing in Swiss Beach, and they're gonna get a $2,000 bill on their own, just to connect there.
Oh, you know, I
And
mean,
like
that's just,
this EPU, we're never
well,
gonna
we
sell
don't,
that.
no,
okay,
you don't have a choice but to try. Okay, moving along, we've got 15 Pilgrim Ave for an abatement. For $646.
I spoke to, may I?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I spoke to this gentleman, he happens to be doing a project across the street. And he told me how the water had been off for a year, and I told him, "You sure you filed for a sewer abatement?" He had no idea it was available. Now, I understand it's on the
Back of the
back.
bill.
May I finish?
No, it's, go ahead, go ahead.
It's on the back of the bill, but virtually nobody ever flips the bill over to look at it. Okay, so ignorance is no excuse of the law. But the water's been shut off, he's going through hell on this project. I think I'd like to give him a break. I will abstain from the vote because he is my neighbor and a friend, but I
I
just
get that,
wanted to
yeah.
say that.
He missed the policy deadline, that's all, and I don't know.
Follow up on that. When you pay your bill, you rip off half of the information needed to do a rebate. So you don't have you don't have all of the information on the stub that you keep because the way it's written on the back of the bill.
I don't write them, it's, and we'll talk to the printer. Yeah, we mentioned-
Brought
we'll
it
talk
up
to the printer.
before that if I turn in my receipt,
Yeah,
I've
but, I
lost the
mean,
information.
I asked Donna when we came in tonight, have you ever looked at the back of the bill? No. We look at how much
Yeah.
and when it's due, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I wanted to give him a break. As I say, he's a friend and a neighbor, so I'll abstain.
So, to your point, again, I'm recommending no because of time frame, but he can reapply next billing cycle and be on time and get an abatement.
Yeah, but he'll only get an abatement for what? The next section. He wouldn't get,
It'd go one full year.
he,
Go
he'd
back
get a
one full
full year?
One full year.
but he's
Still get
already
his-
paid part of this year.
he'd still get one full year. I can't, we have people that have water off for 5 or 6 years. They didn't know it. They didn't read their bills either. All of a sudden, they come for an abatement, and I can't help them, but for a year. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't, but a policy is a
I
policy.
mean, I know
hear
it's
you.
policy, I know it's written there, and
It's a slippery slope. We can change the policy and say that that doesn't matter going forward, but
that could open a can of worms.
yes, I'm telling you, Ken,
Of all the people we denied because of their
yes. I
dates.
just-
So, in other words, if he filed again in August,
Yes,
he would get a $646,
one full year, yes.
Abatement.
Yes, one full year.
which would be half of, he'd still be paying 323.
Right, and, yes, and, so yes, he would pay, when it goes out in August, end of July, it'd be 323, so he'd get that, and so he can go back one full year, and he'd get 323,
So he'd be
323.
getting half of this.
He'd be getting 646, no matter what, that's all I'm saying, it's
Right.
646.
Half of this and what he's accruing right now.
Yes, yes, yes.
That takes care of it. Okay, do I have a motion on the abatement?
well, based on what we've done in the past, I don't see how we can
I agree.
That's,
change our course on that.
Donna's very good at these motions.
Yeah, I make a motion that we follow the recommendation of the sewer superintendent and not grant it at this time.
Second,
$646.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0-1.
Peter?
Right,
We have to be consistent.
abstain for Peter,
401?
Yeah.
correct? And we have 3 Kendrick Road.
This is your crumpets. Crumpets, this is the crumpet factory.
Oh, geez. The crumpet
The
family.
Crumpet Factory up in the industrial park.
Well, what's the date of this? The
It's,
14th?
I just got
So-
14th.
You have gallonage in there for the previous,
Right, so this is the,
So-
yes.
is there a problem here?
There's no problem. I want to explain something, and I'd like to, I'm going to work on a policy. I've been working with Paul Turner, the building commissioner, and all these permits that we have in front of us for bedrooms and.
Good for you.
We're working with them, we're trying to figure this out.
Actually got somebody to listen?
We also put on the town website the memorandum, the vote, so if anybody's coming to Wareham, wants to find out, they go to the website, it says right there, hey, no capacity. So they're aware, so they don't spend their money foolishly.
That's
So we're
smart.
trying to move forward to let everybody, let the world know that we have a moratorium. There's a sewer capacity issue in the town of Wareham. So we're doing that, and Paul and I have been working close together. So here's what we're trying to do in our conversations and discussions, and we'll continue. But this is a letter from the engineering firm that says he did his calculations, and what's there presently is a factory. They make, I believe they make,
Who does?
the company at the Kendrick presently, at 3 Kendrick Road. Matter of fact,
Bottom line, what is their
the
capacity
the
today?
bottom line is that they're using less than the other companies using.
Okay,
So then we
So
have a problem.
there's no
bottom
problem.
line is, it's less flow.
Flow.
So what are you asking for us
So
to
here,
do?
I'm going to take it one step further. In this letter, A, the engineer did not certify this information. I want it certified, because he's going to certify what he's saying. I don't see calculation. I do see references to Title V. I took it upon myself to look up the business that was there to get some type of idea. And I want the person putting these applications together, especially now more than ever, I want it precise, I want hard numbers, and I want the engineer or architect to certify that this information is correct, because I have to, or the board has to hang the hat on this, and when I called the engineer, he said, well, that's what I was told. That doesn't work for me. I want actual facts, I want certifications. If you read it, nowhere do you see a certified stamp, nowhere does it show, and I asked the owner to give me a schematic of what he's doing, because he's saying he brings in spring water, that's why he doesn't use any water, so water's less. He brings tankers of spring water to make his crumpets, and that's fine. But I have no verification of that. I want verification of that. And then we can say, okay, yes, this is accurate, move forward comfortably, opposed to saying, well, that's what they're telling us, we're good. Because we've been down that road before, relying on what people tell us, and it always turns out to be more than what they're telling us. I want certifications, and that's all I'm saying to the board. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so we don't have to do any action on this right now. You've already got that under
Who
control.
does the
and that's happening.
certification?
Engineer,
And,
or the architect.
sorry, this is from the engineer.
Show me the
we're-
certification.
Sorry, can I
No
try to put-
certification.
Show me the certification.
Do we need somebody to verify the engineer's numbers, or are we going to believe the engineer certified his own
Yes.
numbers?
If the engineer certifies, he puts a stamp, just like a notary public.
Yeah.
And he's saying, as an engineer,
so-
I am certifying.
So we're not asking for an independent?
No.
Okay,
That's for certification.
so we're looking
So
for a stamp.
certification makes it true?
In theory, just like a notary public, when they certify it, it's true. Well,
No, it certifies that this is what he says he figures.
that's right.
Yes.
That's all I
Doesn't
want.
mean it's right.
I'm not saying that, but now,
So you'd have to then get another engineer
no.
to check his certification.
Not at all. What I'm saying is he's certifying, so if it turns out to be incorrect, then it's on him,
Okay,
because he is certifying.
he will
How are
certify,
you gonna find out it's incorrect?
We're working
hire
on it.
another engineer.
No, but-
And what I just said?
No, but I'm saying,
Just
no.
simple, just get an affidavit for the engineer
Yeah,
stamp.
That's it. It's
Yeah,
a
it's-
certification.
You want an affidavit,
Usually,
and then it's with the engineering firm.
Because that's it. And then it's,
So it's an affidavit.
well, he's saying affidavit, I'll get
Yeah,
that.
I would prefer that word as
Okay.
opposed to
Because-
certified.
And I think the building commissioner will agree with that.
Absolutely, because we talked about certification, because any
Takes him
plan,
right off the hook.
Yep.
that's what all we're saying. He takes responsibility and says, yeah, what I'm saying is true, it's on him. Because we have to say, okay, we agree with you and you can do that with nobody saying that this is true. I just
We
want
need a
you to-
policy for that, James?
I don't know,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Okay.
But that's what I'm gonna ask
I think
for.
we
Well,
gotta-
if somebody asks, it looks like, once certified, that this is less of a flow than exists today, therefore we are not increasing the flow to the plant.
We're good.
And that's what we're.
That's what we want the
so I
certification
just want
for.
people to understand.
Let the
that-
engineer sign it.
Yep, okay,
We're good, because then we can move forward because it's less. It doesn't impact our moratorium.
I agree.
Right.
Okay,
So can we request that?
I am requesting it. I just wanted the board, because if the board says no, then I can't do it. But I want the board to be aware of what I want to move forward, because I need to make sure
Just
that
do
we're
it.
making, because we don't have the luxury of saying, oh, we made a mistake. I want people to
Let's just-
understand, they
yeah,
got to
let's-
certify. They got to make sure they're
Get the
accurate.
certification,
You
or
don't want to
whatever
spend
it
any
is,
money checking the
affidavit.
numbers, so.
I agree with that.
Okay, sewer superintendent's report.
It just, we've talked about a lot of things. I wanted to mention again, on the website, it's posted, we feel that, and I must say, I've never met Paul in person. We've done a lot of phone conversations, emails, and he's very cooperative. He wants to understand, he wants to help.
That's good.
We've got 15 permits today that we're faced with. Every one of them is an increase of flow. Every single one of them.
Are you on, is your
And-
signature required now?
Absolutely. We're on the same page. I got to sign off. If we don't sign off, it
Real
doesn't
happy,
happen.
I'm real happy with that.
We've really worked hard at this.
Finally.
I got to say that I'm really impressed. And it's hard to tell people no. I mean, I've got people that are refinancing out of a 15% mortgage into a lower one, and we say, you can't do it. And he's got, so it's just these stories, and I get calls at night, during the day, on Saturday, I have people visit me on Sundays, and it's heart-wrenching for me, because I got to tell people to put their life on hold. People that bought houses in Wyoming because a realtor said, oh, you can put a bedroom, and I'm saying, no, that's not true. They're invested, and they can't do anything. So it is wrenching for me.
that, they can't do anything.
That's funny.
They can't put another, that's right. they cannot-
Legally can't do anything.
They can't put another well, okay, well,
You got it.
I want to,
Go there, yeah.
I'm assuming there's
Come to
integrity.
town
You're
meeting,
right.
what was said there
All right, I'm assuming,
a number of years ago.
but that's where we are. So I just want to say that, working with Paul, trying to stop this stuff, because technically, somebody can do it and not do any permits and not tell us. I had a guy tell me he's putting a bedroom, submit a set of plans with a master bedroom over the garage, and it's gorgeous. I said, you can't, because, well, I'll tell you what, I won't call it a bedroom, I'll call it a family
Well, you
room.
know,
So, right now, of the list we have, only one project has been permitted, and that's 211 Onset Ave, and that's the only one we have on the queue.
Yes, and we permitted it to
And
get a
that-
permit.
Just because it's been approved by planning.
It has, but I want to be clear. In our clarification, we said he still needs 40 gallons.
Yes.
And if he doesn't get his 40 gallons, he cannot go online.
Did.
Okay,
But
that's,
that's,
I want to be
so
sure.
right now,
To be clear,
on our
yes.
queue, we only have one project.
That's right, that's it.
The others have not been permitted by anybody,
No,
and therefore they're not in a queue.
no. And it's
Okay.
difficult because usually the hard part, and I'm going to speak as a contractor, I'm not a contractor, but before they can get the monies or all, they need to say, oh, I can do sewer. So they're asking me to prove things contingent. I got people saying, well, listen, you approve it, and then I'll move forward. I'm saying, well, I have no guarantee. Once I approve it, well, no, we'll never use it. I can't go there.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're right. There's a process, and it's very difficult because they're asking us to trust them, and I don't distrust, but I get the process, and we have to say no, and that's just the simple facts of life. So anyways, that's where I am with that. So that's that, and I told you about, I am going to, and this is probably for conservation, because they'll see me waiting out there, and I'll wave at them and go, meh. On C Street, there's two things, that's for you. But on C Street, to complete the project, we gotta redo the block on the wall, and that's pretty straightforward. We raised the manhole in the beach. We raised it so that when it's high tide, it's non-visible. When it's low tide, it's visible. So they asked me to mark it because they're afraid a boat is gonna hit it. You know, it's so close to shore, if they hit it, I don't know, but nonetheless, I spoke with the harbor master, or Gary, I don't know his titles anymore, but I spoke to Gary. I said, Gary, and he said, Guy, we got all over the town, we have catch basins out there, we have drainage out there. What we do is we put a post that says caution, manhole, and that's it. So I'm gonna put a post alongside of that manhole so that everybody knows that when it's high tide, this sign means there's a manhole there, so if you're boating around, don't come here. And it just makes it clean, because we talked about buoys and all that, but I figured as the harbor master, he knows. And he also said he'd patrol it to make sure people understand, and he'll work with us. So that's what we're gonna do. So when you see me down there wading with this pole and pounding it in, I just wanted to give you a heads up. And as we fix the wall, just so you know, but that's what we're gonna do.
Gary has to do that, it's navigational.
Long overdue. Gary said we may have to go to Coast Guard, but I told him it's really not a navigational inlet, because it's so close in, but
It's
all
a
those things
muddy
were
hole.
discussed. It was all discussed, because it's critical.
It's gonna be a good place to tie the clam shanks.
Yeah, here we go, so, the post. And he says when they fall over, because they do, but people are aware, because the sign points it out, so that's how we're gonna move forward. So I wanted to point that out. Our projects are behind schedule. The project that we're doing, the $9 million project, it's been extended 72 days. I think it completes in October now. So it's difficult because there's electrical components we cannot get. We just simply cannot get them. And they're gonna start arriving in July, and we'll start completing. We got pumps that we don't have, we got control panels we don't have, circuitry we don't have, and everything's back ordered, and it's just been a nightmare. So we've extended that 72 days. The generators for Terry Lane and Salt Works, we expect delivery the end of October. That's the earliest we'll get delivery there, so that project's been extended, pushed out. We just can't get them any sooner. So a lot of things are becoming difficult to get. I'm seeing surcharges on every bill, a lab, you name it, there's a surcharge. We have contracts and they're raising it. The town accountant and I were talking, and she felt that we shouldn't pay them. We have no choice. It's tough times, and we've got to make the adaptions and move forward. So we're seeing everything, and our construction company is struggling to meet deadlines, but they just simply can't. The covered basin, we're waiting for components. We can't complete the control panel, so that was scheduled to go online presently, end of June, middle of June, to handle the summer heat. That ain't gonna happen. That we may get that online sometime in August, September. So we have an odor season, and we have a lot of issues that are, involved. So I just want to be aware, and it's already started, and we're doing our very best. But the best planning sometimes, now anyways, that you really can't plan. So that's happening, and we're working on that. The fire department has asked us to revamp our fire alarms, and they're asking us to add boxes outside, screens outside, so that they can increase their response time, and it's a tremendous cost. We're already upgrading our panels because the fire codes have changed. I can't use the old lockbox, has to be modern. I think the contract right now is $60-something thousand. We'll probably add another $60,000 to $70,000 to it to meet the needs before we're completed, and that's all started, and we're still waiting for
Is
components.
this the onset or the Wareham Fire?
Wareham Fire Department.
Wareham Fire?
Because it covers the
Okay,
plant.
thank you.
Yeah. Onset Fire Department, I've got pump stations they want me to change. I'm working with Wareham. I said, I'll deal with you when I get done with Wareham, because it's costing the whole 9 yards. So we'll start dealing with onset in the future. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to deal with. And it's cost, and I know we keep talking about more cost, but there's no choice. It's code changes. I just can't say no. We have to move forward. So that's happening, so we're working at it. Our budget, there's some issues or items that are way over budget, some items that are on budget, and some items that are under budget. So we're trying to balance out the end of the year, and we'll
You're
have
close to
hard
this, we're
numbers.
completing the end of fiscal year '22 in a couple weeks.
Weeks, we're there. So we're starting to look hard at numbers, and the numbers we get from the town are behind a month or two, but we're current. So we know kind of where we are, we do our numbers, and we balance it off with the town as we get theirs, because they're the real numbers that have to be submitted, so we're working towards that. But there's some things that are way out, and some that really are way out, and there's some things that are okay in the ballpark, and some things that are less than we anticipated, whether we didn't use it or whatever, so that's happening too. So we're hoping that everything balances, so we don't have to go to the town to pay it, and then take it out of retained earnings. I'm waiting to get a balance of retained earnings, because I don't have that number, and because in the beginning, a lot of money was coming out of retained earnings to pay for the construction, because the way SR funding, they work, we've had this discussion, is you pay the bill and you get reimbursed. The monies were coming out, and all of a sudden, we didn't know, and it got to be distorted, and now we're catching up, we're getting our reimbursements, they're starting to fly in, so we're catching up, and that money's going in, and so we'll get a accounting of where we are with retained earnings, because that's gonna be critical for us to know as we move forward, what we have in the bank. So once I get those numbers, I'll share those numbers. You know, there's a lot, but I think that's kind of, we got a guy certified for first aid, that meets our permit requirements. Our permit is in review. Our new permit will be in October, and that has criteria that's gonna cost a whole lot of money, and we'll talk about that in September, because it's, the implications for that new permit from the EPA involves PFAS testing, which is huge, and we're looking at some type of, if you will, solutions, because the federal government says if you work on your PFAS issue, and I think you all know that what PFAS is, it's been talked about in the news, it's in water, it's very, very dangerous, and everybody's gonna remove it, that they'll give us grants zero. So we're trying to work those into our programs. We borrow money to say, oh, this comes under PFAS, so we can get money without having to pay it back. So we are gonna address it, because our permit says it. It talks about SEMA. Our permit is just extensive, and there's a lot of things in it that are going to be costly, and we're going to have to work through that. So that's coming up too. So I know we all talk about the fundings, et cetera, et cetera. It's not going to stop. It's going to continue. I know we're headed to a recession, but our responsibilities don't stop. And I get it. So that's a nutshell. There's a lot more, but I think that's for tonight. I think that's enough information, and we'll pick it up at another meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything pending right now we need to go over? Anybody?
I do.
Go ahead.
The Robinwood sewer line.
Yeah.
I spoke to the head of municipal maintenance. He had absolutely no information that they were going to be digging in or under his roads. I talked to people in the building department. They had no idea of the project. Sewer has no responsibility, so who is overlooking that project to put a sewer line from Robinwood to the pump station? I have no idea who's overseeing that for the town of Wareham.
It's not,
I don't know where else to go.
it's not us.
Go to planning. Go to
I
Ken
went-
Buckland. Do you go to Ken? Go see
Let
Ken.
him chase it.
I talked to Ken.
It's not
He's-
us.
I talked to Ken about it.
We're
Go see
not putting
Ken.
it in.
So it was surprising the municipal maintenance had no knowledge that the roads were going to be impacted.
Why? We're surprised when people hook up new places that we don't even know were there, that they got building permits for.
And they
I'm
have,
surprised at that.
and they have to apply to municipal maintenance for permits to do roads, so when they get to that point, they will. Until, before that, they
Okay,
won't go tell
so,
them.
just to be clear, we have absolutely no input or responsibility for the project once it leaves the
Property.
property.
We don't have any
Where
responsibility
they
for
tie
it.
into us.
Yeah, when they,
That's right.
yeah.
When they tie in is
Supervise
our
where they tie in.
responsibility. We want to make sure that what they use at their property is our responsibility. The directional drilling is the responsibility of the contractor and the town. We will, I'm going to be, well, that's, and because it's a contractor, it's not us. We're not putting the line in.
Know that, I just wanted to make
But
sure.
Sandy, I want to be clear, we'll review everything, even though we have no input, we'll review it.
Okay.
And we'll make our comments to planning,
But the
and they can do their thing.
The questions are saying what is happening, and the answer is we have absolutely no idea because we've not seen the plans.
So I'll get them from Ken, because Ken told me it's moving forward, they're doing this, so I'll get
So
plans.
Buckland
I'll get plans from Ken.
Planning Department,
I'll get them from Ken, so you
that's
can
the
have
only
them.
one I didn't go to.
I'll get everything you
Good to
need from
him. I
Ken,
mean,
because He presented it and he's spearheading it.
He should be not letting,
I'm not sure how that directional boring goes, who has jurisdiction.
And I said to
If there's a
Ken,
road opening, then it would be the highway department.
yeah, because they're gonna go under the road. So I don't know this depth and all that. Like, we're going on the railroad, we were gonna go to the canal and the railroad. The railroad, we were gonna go to 100 feet. So they were less concerned, but they were still concerned. If I was gonna go 20 feet. So my only point is that they gotta be notified. And the town is going to require the directional driller to make sure, because there's an impaction, that the road's not gonna sink. That's on them, and so Ken will.
Were they
coordinate all
changing
that.
direction guy, did they have to open a road?
They have to have an entry port, so that'd probably be on their property, and they have to have an exit, which would be on the road for us, by our
It's
manhole.
like it's not a straight line,
No,
correct?
it's
No, they're
zigzag.
gonna follow the road.
And
So
most
where
of
they
the,
make a turn, do they have to open a road?
Where they make a turn, they'll do a road opening cut, and they'll have to
Why
notify
doesn't
municipal maintenance.
Municipal maintenance know about it?
Not until they do apply a permit. So before, they'll go to him and apply for a permit, road opening permit, and then he'll know.
most of,
So there's your answer. They
most of
haven't
the
applied for
roads-
their permit.
No, they
most of the
haven't.
roads are private.
well, they still have to apply for
Then
a
municipal
permit from
maintenance doesn't
somebody.
need to
They're
know.
out.
Yeah, so that's,
Then municipal maintenance doesn't need to know. If they're private, then it doesn't matter, because we don't take care of
the
private roads.
homeowners own to the middle of the
But then it's on
road,
the
so they
homeowners.
have to deal with the homeowners when they do
We're
a
done.
direction.
I don't want to know a thing about that.
Exactly.
I don't
I-
want to know. You
Okay.
guys-
It's
I
It's
didn't
not
hear
part of
that.
us.
it's off of
I
us.
don't want to know anything.
Don't even go there. You can get,
Hey.
you've got enough stuff without adding to it.
Ain't that the truth?
I wish them luck.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Peter, did you have something?
To see if
I make
Nope.
a motion that we adjourn.
Can we get the next meeting first?
It's
Fred, are
the
you all
7th.
set?
I'm just waiting for Guy.
All right,
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to him.
with all due respect, I saw you come
Next
back
meeting
and
is,
I said,
the
"Oh,
next
you must
meeting
have
is the
forgot something."
14th,
All right,
July 14th.
Now, Donna.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
At
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
8:06.